Okay, Noah, here's the next question. Are you ready?
Uh, no, not really. I'm not very.
Perfect. Here it is. What are the roots of the polynomial x to the seventh minus 11x to the fourth plus 1 half x cubed plus the square root of 2? Ready?
Uh, Seriously, Pete? Another polynomial question? Can't we switch to a different topic? I am polynomialed out.
Dude, do you think Ken Jennings would whine about being polynomialed out?
No, I guess not.
Please answer in the form of a question.
Okay, how about this question? Will you please knock it off, Pete?
Okay, fine. But I'm just saying, you want to win, don't you?
Of course I do, but I don't see why we can't send you to the math competition. You know way more math than I do.
That's true, but I'm busy that day, and the math club has to send somebody, so it's gonna have to be you.
Oh, thank God. I'll get it. I need a break anyway. Hello?
Hey, buddy, I got a package for Noah at the math club. It's a whole lot of books.
I didn't order any books. Are you sure that? Okay then. Let's see what we have here. Calculus for dummies, algebra for dummies, trigonometry for dummies.
This Noah guy must be a real dummy.
Okay, wise guy. Thank you so much. I think I've got it from here.
Whatever you say, pal.
Oh, good, your books are here. And just look at the stack of them. You really got your work cut out for you.
What? I thought this delivery was a mistake. Did you order these for me?
Well, obviously, you got to get ready for the big day.
There's no way I can read all these before the competition. And besides, you already know all this stuff.
I know, but we've been over this. I can't make it that day, so it's up to you. And you definitely got to get in shape, my friend.
Can't we just send Alexa instead?
Sorry, I don't think so. There's a strict biological requirement about the contestants. And since Pete is busy that day,
I know. Pete's busy and can't go. Geez, what is he so busy with anyway?
checking Pete's calendar,
Alexa, there's really no need.
it looks like Pete has an appointment at the hair salon.
The hair salon?
What? I got to get a haircut sometime.
Oh, you're gonna get a haircut, all right. Alexa, add a Floby to my shopping list. Pete's gonna have a brand new look when we send him to the competition. You know, Pete, that sketch was pretty fun. And of course, we were playing it up for laughs. But did you know there really is an organization out there called MATHCOUNTS that runs a national math competition series for middle school students?
Oh, yeah, I remember you told me about it last year. Weren't you somehow involved with math counts in your school district?
Yeah, I was. The competition series has 4 different levels: school, chapter, state, and national. And because I was a teacher on special assignment, I was put in charge of coordinating the chapter level competition between students from all the different middle schools in my district.
Well, it sounds super interesting, and I bet our listeners would love to hear more about it. Like, what's the national competition like?
To tell you the truth, I was only involved in the citywide competition, the one that they call the chapter level. But I agree with you, it would be cool to learn more about the whole program. So I reached out to Kristen Chandler at the Math Counts Foundation, and she's agreed to join us on today's show to talk about the program. And that must be her now.
What a great idea. Hi, Kristen. Welcome to the Math Club.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Math Club, I'd like to introduce Kristen Chandler. Kristen is a proud team member of the Math Counts National staff. She started her career teaching high school math for 7 years. Then, in 2001, she joined Math Counts and has been with the organization ever since. Her first role was to work with the amazing volunteers who create the organization's math content, turning their incredible work into the competitions and study guides that are the foundation of the competition series. Since then, she's had responsibilities spanning almost every aspect of the organization, and in 2018 was named the executive director.
Well, Kristen, we are delighted to have you here, and we have so many questions for you. I first learned about math counts from Noah, and he'll probably tell us a little bit more about his involvement later on. But I'm hoping we could start with just some background about what is math counts, what are the various programs that you offer, what can you tell us?
Sure. MathCounts is an organization, and our focus is really on middle school mathematics. So we really try to attract as many sixth, seventh, and eighth graders as we can through our two programs. And our two programs are the competition series. That's probably the one that you've heard of. That's the one that we're most well known for. And then we also have a club program. So they are complementary of each other. You can certainly do both. But like I said, we had the competition series for so long. And then we were kind of hearing from some folks, could you give us something that isn't just competition based? And so that's where the club program comes in, where it's more kids working together and more collaborative than competitive. So those are our two programs. And the idea behind both of them is to really build students' confidence and to improve their attitudes about math and about problem solving. And we really target those middle school years intentionally because that's when a lot of students' attitudes about themselves as mathematicians are changing. And we want to be sure that we're really supporting them in their efforts, showing them that there's a community out there of people who enjoy math, enjoy problem solving, and just those positive attitudes just are so critical at that age.
Kristen, I really love how you are describing, especially that aspect of your mission around building community, building a sense of identity around mathematics. And I thought I would share our mission statement here at the Math Club.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It is to make math more accessible and more engaging to more people. And so we like to bring in, on the one hand, a lot of silliness, a lot of playfulness. On the other hand, we also take the mathematics seriously and we value the problem solving and the analytic side of things. So it's very exciting to me to learn about your organization and your emphasis on sort of helping young learners place themselves in that space of, hey, I can do this. I can do mathematics. It's in me and I can participate. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, our missions seem to be very similar. And I know with 100% certainty that participating in math counts, and I would say, especially in the competition series, if the student is really preparing for the competitions, their math aptitude is going to increase. There's just no doubt in my mind. But even if they didn't get better at math, just to have that community allows them to see, like, hey, there are other students out there who like to challenge themselves. I can go to this competition and I did pretty well. Let me see if I can move on to the next level. And I think competition just really motivates some people. And if it motivates a student to do even more than they would normally do in a classroom, then that's fantastic. I also should mention the club program is for those kids who maybe are intimidated by competition, but they still want to be in that environment. And so that's why we've provided that. And the idea behind that is just to get kids going to math club after school. The more math you're doing, the better. And like I said, that's more activities and a lot of collaborative projects. And clubs can receive recognition based on the number of club meetings they attend and whether they do that end of season collaborative project together. So there's just different ways to be a mathematician. It doesn't have to be what we typically show students in a classroom as did you get answers right and wrong, and did you get at least 90% correct to get a good grade. We really need to show them that's not what mathematics is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And Pete said at the very beginning of our interview that he was introduced to math counts through me, but I am by no means an expert on it either. My experience with math counts just goes back about a year. I have been a teacher on special assignment for my school district for the past 9 years. And this year I was made the coordinator of our Math Counts competition when it was time to do our chapter-wide or citywide competition. And so I got to plan out the day, help organize everything. I was there for the whole day and got to witness the competition event that day. And I was so impressed with the entire format of the competition. And I know our listeners would love to hear a little bit more from you about what does that competition look like? I only saw the chapter competition. I know there are other levels beyond just the local chapter competition. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are familiar with the structure of, I'll say, the spelling bee, where there's a school competition and then the kids who are most successful there go on to a local competition and then the state and then the national spelling bee. We are the math version of that for middle school kids. So we provide all the materials that the school registers. We provide all the materials for them to hold their own school competition. And then they can send up to 12 kids to the local competition. It sounds like that's what you were participating in. And to us, we call it a chapter competition. And that's because I have to give full credit to our volunteers. So what makes Math Counts special, in my opinion, is that we have all in-person competitions. And that's only possible because we have literally tens of thousands of volunteers putting these on. We have over 500 local or chapter competitions, and typically the volunteer responsible for that is a member of the National Society of Professional Engineers, or NSPE, one of our founding sponsors. And so those volunteers are putting these events on all over the country during the month of February for our local competitions. And then from there, the students who perform the best or earn the best scores at the local competition go on to the state competition. And again, that's an in-person event where we are truly celebrating these kids and how much they've worked to get there. And then at the state level, the top 4 kids from every state then combine to form their state team, and they attend the national competition, which we invite them to. It's an all expenses paid trip. The title sponsor of our national competition is RTX. And it's truly incredible. We consider ourselves having 56 states because DC has a state, the territories each have a state, and also our Department of Defense schools and our State Department schools overseas are considered their own states. So we have 56 states worth of kids showing up at this national event to become the national champion. I say the national champion, but I should also mention that one of the most coveted titles is the national team champion, because they are competing as a team as well. And that's another thing that I think Math Counts does a really nice job of promoting, that Math Counts can be a team event. It's not just every man for himself.
I would also say that I know that in our district, at least, each middle school does have a club that meets regularly after school. I don't have a lot of experience or information about what goes on in the club meetings. So could you also speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So ideally, a school would have both a math team, maybe you'd call it a team if they're preparing for the competition series, and maybe those same kids are members of a club. And at the club, we provide all of the materials that you would need to hold a club meeting once a week. So we have games, we have activities, we have problem sets. I think Talk Like a Pirate Day is September 19th.
Ahoy, mateys!
We have a special club activity for that day. Like, we try to find all these cool holidays throughout the year and provide activities that are just going to be fun for kids to come after school and do. And I guess I would say about 90% of our clubs and our teams do meet after school. But we also know school districts who have found the Math Counts materials so effective in motivating kids and teaching problem solving that there's actually some schools that have classes based around Math Counts, or the kids meet during lunch or before school. So you can kind of make it what's going to work for your own situation. But yeah, these clubs, like I said, I think they meet about once a week for most of them. And they get together and they just do fun math games and activities and problem sets.
Kristen, one of the things that I'm noticing, if I think about the 2 programs that you offer, on the one hand, there's this aspect of inclusiveness, this sense of community building. I love the idea that students would gather after school to do math together, to engage in that creative play and have fun. I also really liked what you had to say about sort of that specialness that comes with moving up through the competition. I can only imagine that the students who make it to the national level must feel incredibly proud of themselves. What an event that would be. I know it would have knocked my socks off as a kid to have been able to do that. So I'm wondering, as I'm piecing together in my mind what I think some of the benefits are for participating in math counts, I'm wondering if you could shed some light from your perspective. What would be some of those explicit benefits that parents might think about or teachers might think about when thinking through the question of sending their kid to a math counts, either to participate in the club or to think about the competition?
Oh, that's a great question. So I truly believe that the biggest benefit is just learning a sense of like tenacity when you're going after these problems. I think that when a student first encounters math counts problems, especially the ones that we do design to prepare kids for competition, they can be intimidating or they can look like problems they've never seen before. And like I said, a lot of times we're all middle school content, so we're not asking calculus problems or anything like that, but they are difficult because they just require kids to kind of go into their math toolbox and figure out which tools they need. Whereas in class, it's, okay, we're going to take a quiz on FOIL or we're going to take a quiz on binomial expressions. And this is different. They have to figure out which tools they need to pull out. And I think that being in that environment, having productive struggle, seeing how other kids approach problems and kind of having that, oh, I wish I'd given it just a little more thought. I think I could have gotten there. The more times you have that thought, the more eager you are to spend more time on problems. It just helps the confidence, the problem solving, the idea that I can figure this out. And it's not just going to be good for your algebra class grade. I truly think it's so beneficial on any standardized tests or just any career path you go into to just have this confidence that, yeah, I can figure this out. And this might be tricky and I might not get it right away, but that's okay. And if I need to ask someone for help or just for a pointer, that's okay too. I think that as a math coach, the most important thing you can do is kind of show your kids your own struggle, show them how you get to an answer when you don't know it right away. And that's really the skill that I think Math Counts does an amazing job teaching to students who many times have never had to struggle. It's always come so easily.
And I completely agree with you. From what I saw of our chapter competition that day, that was very apparent that that was a very strong feeling that was motivating these students. And while you were talking, I couldn't help but reflect on the fact that the club part of your program really seems to emphasize working together, collaborating, problem solving as a group. Even the competition series has elements of competitiveness and elements of collaboration because there are individual rounds and there's also the team round. So what I'm wondering, Kristen, is what role do you think competitiveness and collaboration play in engaging the students who are participating?
I don't know if either of you have sports backgrounds. That was my background growing up. And we call our students who participate, we call them mathletes. We think there's a lot that Math Counts has in common with sports. And I often just kind of explain this as, if my parents had signed me up for all these teams that they signed me up for, and I never got to play a game and it was all just practice, that would get boring. I mean, we looked forward to the games. We looked forward to seeing, have we made progress? Where do I fit relative to my peers? And if we think about it in school for math, the only time kids really get to see, is my work paying off? What does that look like? It's always grades. And for a lot of kids, that's not really motivating. But in math counts, you get to work all year and work with teammates, and you see that you're now suddenly able to do problems, these practice problems that you weren't able to do at the beginning. And then you get to go to the chapter competition and see, how do I stack up against these other kids who are here who also like math? I will say it's very important to have a great coach, not only to teach you the math, but also to put it in perspective. If you don't win, right? Not everybody can win the chapter competition. And we have some teams that are all sixth graders, for example, and we're sixth, seventh, and eighth. And every student takes the same contest. So if I have a group of sixth graders, we might not finish in the top at the chapter competition. But what's so important is to say, hey guys, you're getting such an early start on this. And imagine what you're going to know when you're in eighth grade going up against these other eighth graders. And so I think a coach, their biggest role in this is just preparing the kids mentally to have a good experience and learn from whatever the outcome is at the competition. But I just think it's so important for some kids to put themselves in that environment and to challenge themselves and to see how they're stacking up.
You know what you just reminded me of, Kristen, is that last round in the chapter competition is the countdown round. And only 7th and 8th graders can participate in that final round. And our director of curriculum at the end of the competition this year said, I think next year we should let the 6th graders all go home before the countdown round. They're not in it. Why are we keeping all these 6th graders here?
You're still here? It's over. Go home.
And all of the math teachers there said, no, 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 no. There's a very good reason to keep the 6th graders there. We want them to see that countdown round, to get excited about it, to know that this is something they can participate in next year.
Absolutely. Like I don't know if you heard me. I kind of gasped when you said send them home. I think that's the whole point of seeing that is just to say, hey, that's a goal I want to set for myself. I want to get there. And we have some alumni scholarships. And when we have our alumni write their essays and tell us about their experiences, almost every single one of them points out, my 6th grade year, I did this, or my 7th grade year, I did this. And then I set a goal for myself. In 8th grade, I wanted to make it to the countdown round, or I wanted to make it to states, or I wanted to make it to nationals. And we even have some tell us I didn't. I didn't reach my goal, but the work I put in to get there, I'm so seeing the benefits of that now. So that's another, just a huge lesson that some students take away from this, over and above the math skills that I think they're getting.
Kristen, you were asking about sports, and I grew up on a recreational swim league in California in the Bay Area. I competed in this league from age 7 up through age 18. But when I think about that span, probably my proudest year was when I was 14. And in the final competition, we'd been training all summer for this. And in the final competition, I placed 4th in my individual event, which I did very well for myself in terms of my time. I had hoped to place a little bit higher, but I'm still very proud of my time. And at the same time, I was on a medley relay team, and we actually came in first. And when I think about that combination of pushing myself to beat the time that I had in mind, and at the same time collaborating as a member of a 4-person relay team, I love this idea that experience can translate over to mathematics. And why not? I mean, there's a lot to celebrate about this balance between competition and collaboration. And it sounds like your competition series does a really nice job of getting that balance right.
Yes, and thank you. And the team round is something that I think a lot of kids really look forward to. I'll tell you, when the pandemic hit, we had to go online because we just couldn't have these in-person events. And you can imagine that's a daunting task to take this big national program with over 30,000 kids competing and put it online. And so originally we're like, look, we're just going to worry about the individual rounds. I mean, trying to figure out how to get a team to do this online, that's just, we don't have time for that. And there was a huge backlash, and we valued the team component, but even we didn't realize just how important that part was to a lot of these schools. And for us, the way we determine who the team winner is we take the 4 kids on the team, and their individual scores are all averaged. So you really need 4 strong members who each perform individually very well, but then together they take the team round, and that score is added to the average of their individual scores. And that's how we determine our team champion. So it really does take all 4 of them. And especially I get to see the ones coming to nationals. I also see the ones at my local competition right here in Virginia where I am. And you can tell these teams have practiced. They know, look, we better have someone who's pretty good at geometry. We should probably have someone who's pretty good at probability, because there's going to be one of those on there. We should probably have someone who's good at algebra. And when they get that team round, that's the first thing they do, is divvy up those problems so that the people who have strengths in particular areas can use those strengths to help the team and their overall score.
Super cool. And it really is kind of runs parallel to this analogy I was making with this medley relay team, where the 4 of us each swim a different stroke.
Different strokes it takes, different strokes it takes, different strokes to move the world.
I love it. And I have so many fond memories of being on that team. And I think given the opportunity to do that in a mathematical setting, that wasn't something that I knew about. I mean, I, like you, finished eighth grade probably just slightly too soon to have participated in math counts. Now, boy, it's something I would have looked forward to.
Speaking of when we were in eighth grade, Pete, I was wondering, Kristen, this was my school district's 20th year being involved with Math Counts, but I get the real strong sense from talking to you that Math Counts has been around a bit longer than 20 years, since you said that you just barely were a little too old. I know you and I are just about the same age. Can you give us a little bit of information about how did Math Counts get started? And also, if you'd like to share, how did you get involved with it?
Oh, sure. So math counts, we're going into our 42nd year. So yes, it's been around for 4 decades. And it started as a collaborative effort between three organizations: the National Society of Professional Engineers, so NSPE. They were, I believe, in Alabama. They were doing some work with middle schools and math competitions and trying to figure out how they could really make a difference there. And then CNA Insurance up in Chicago was also working on a similar endeavor where they are. And so they thought, well, maybe we could have more impact if we work together and we try to dream big and make this a national thing. And they got the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, so NCTM, they got them to join on. So the three of them are considered to be our founding sponsors. And it was through their work that within 2 years, they built it to be a nationwide program. And it's been going ever since. Like I said, the competition series is what we used to be. That was all. And then in 2007, that's when we brought on this idea of a club program because, when things are competitive, some schools were getting ultra competitive. And so we didn't want the message to be, hey, if you're not the best of the best in your school, then Math Counts isn't the place for you. That is so not true.
Mm.
And so we thought, well, why don't we introduce this other non-competitive aspect and get the club program in there? We built it to be complementary to the competition series so that the competition series has a fee involved. The club is absolutely free. The competition series obviously has a competitive aspect to it. The club does not. We were hearing that some schools take this really seriously. And so they kind of had to limit. They had so many kids interested in doing the competition series. They started to kind of limit the kids who they would work with to prepare them. And that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted more kids involved. So for the club program, there's actually incentives. For the bigger your club is, the more recognition your club can receive. So really, a school can do both. But when we designed the club, we were trying to come up with something that, like I said, it kind of filled in some of the gaps that maybe the competition series had. And then the way I became involved with Math Counts was really dumb luck. So I was a high school math teacher for 7 years. And just due to some timing and my family moving, when I came to this area, it was going to be kind of the middle of the school year. So I was going to wait till the next school year to get started in teaching. And it was back when newspapers are where you looked for a job. And I saw this advertised and I contacted my sister who actually did know about Math Counts. And she's like, you have to do it. It was the best program. And I thought, well, I'm a high school math teacher. This middle school program can't be that hard. And I will tell you that in my first 2 years being responsible for the content, I learned more mathematics that would be relevant to teaching than I probably did getting my bachelor's degree in mathematics. Just reading through the solutions of the handbooks and working with the volunteer question writers, the love of math, the passion for it, and just the problem solving. I mean, I was an algebra girl. You give me any problem, I'm going right to algebra. And just to see like how many problems can be solved with just thinking about it creatively and not going right to my equations was just so eye-opening.
That's really cool. And I love the callback to the days of looking for jobs in newspapers. I mean, I think all three of us probably remember those days. Thinking about the history of Math Counts and the fact that you have been around now for 4 decades, I'm kind of curious if over the years, former participants have ever reached out to any of you, maybe several years or even a decade or two after their experience, just to sort of say, hey, I was a kid when I did this. I loved it. And here's how it impacted me, or here's how I think about it now. Do you have any interesting stories related to that?
Oh, interesting stories. So we have a lot of amazing alumni, and we're very fortunate that they do reach out to us. And it's actually kind of cool when I go out and I have either a Math Counts hat on or my work shirt on. People will just come up to me and just like, "Oh my gosh, I did Math Counts. I loved it. I still have my triangle trophy."
That's really funny because if I wear my math club t-shirt out, nobody seems to know what it is.
We need a trophy, Noah. That's
We-
what it is.
We need a triangle trophy.
We tried to get kind of cool looking trophies like with people on them later, but people were like, no, 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 we want our triangle trophies. We've been known for that for 40 years. And actually, I was just interviewing an alum who came to us. He wants to be more involved in Math Counts, wanted to know what he could do to help us out. I got on a call with him. I was talking to him and he was like, oh, wait a minute. And he kind of left the call for a second and came back and showed me his triangle trophy because he was in his childhood home at his parents' house. So alumni definitely have very fond memories of the competition series, and we're very lucky that they want to give back. We have hundreds of coaches who are alumni, and we're trying to do a much better job of getting in touch with our alumni. So I guess I'll put a plug out there. If you're listening and you're an alum, please get in touch with us. It's just kind of hard because you become an alum of Math Counts when you're in ninth grade and you have some goofy email address that you probably wish you didn't have 20 years later, and you've probably changed it. And so it's very hard for us to kind of keep in touch with our alumni since they're so young. But we definitely try to follow them and see what great things they're doing. Po Shen Lo, he was the coach of the United States International Math Olympiad team for many years. He's still very involved. He's an alum. We have many alum who are in the AI world now and have their own companies and are doing work there. And like I said, we're fortunate we have a few members of our board of directors now who are alumni and have great careers in all sorts of things. But they just kind of realized what Math Counts did for them and the problem solving skills it gave them and the community it gave them. And they're all just looking to give back. So we're very, very fortunate.
That's really wonderful to hear. And it really speaks volumes to how much of an impact Math Counts and your programs have on these students moving forward into their adult lives. Something that I can't help but notice while you're telling us about the history of Math Counts is how much it's stayed very true to its basic core values where you started, but it's also evolved and changed a bit over the years, over the last 4 decades. So I'm wondering, Kristen, what's on the horizon for Math Counts? Is there anything new that you and your team are working on? Any changes or any new offerings that might be coming up that you can share with us?
That's a great question. We just revamped our club program this past year. So it was kind of our first year rolling that out. So there are a lot more project opportunities, a lot more recognition opportunities with that. So to us, that still feels kind of new, even though it's a year old now. And really, our efforts are just on getting more and more students involved, getting the word out. And I appreciate you recognizing we are trying to stay true to our mission. We're not trying to go out and be all things to all people, but there are many paths to math, we say, and Math Counts has a path for everyone, whether it's the competition or the club. And what we're really trying to do now is make it easier on teachers. They're totally work to the bone and they don't have a whole lot of free time to devote to this. And so we're trying to make our resources more easily available and to provide a lot more support to our coaches who are taking on that challenge of coaching. And it's a challenge that I think if you talk to our coaches, they'll tell you it's, for many of them, they respond that it's the best part of their teaching. They just love the Math Counts program, but it's still demanding, right? There's just not a whole lot of extra time in the day. So we're more trying to, like you say, stay true to what we are, but make it more available and make it easier to incorporate into a school environment. Or with the club program, it doesn't even have to be a school environment. Girl Scout troops have their own clubs that are part of it. So it's more addressing the accessibility, and that's really been our focus.
So, in terms of getting the word out and sort of spreading into ever broader audiences, if there are listeners who are teachers or parents and they're interested in either bringing Math Counts to their school or to their district, or If they themselves would like to participate in some capacity, how can they get started? Who should they reach out to?
They can reach out to me and I will point you in the right direction depending on what your question is. Our email addresses are all online and we are at mathcounts.org. We are a nonprofit and I feel like I should get a plug in for our staff. People are amazed that we only have 13 staff members and that's this huge national organization, but I also then need to put a plug in to our volunteers. I mean, just truly tens of thousands of volunteers that help us out each year. But if you want information about the program or how to get started, I would definitely recommend going to mathcounts.org. And then you can email anyone on staff and we'll kind of get you pointed in the right direction depending on whether you have a question about the competition series or the club program, how to get started, what the resources are. We're definitely here to really support teachers' efforts, parents' efforts, and we have a lot of special resources for first-time coaches and club leaders too.
You know, Kristen, you've mentioned a couple of times now how much you appreciate your volunteers. And I want to tell you a great story that I learned when I became involved with Math Counts for my district this year. I teach in Livermore, California, and we have a very strong science and engineering community here because of our proximity to Lawrence Livermore National Lab and Sandia Lab. A lot of the people that live in Livermore and who are parents of our students are mathematicians, engineers, scientists. And I learned that Math Counts was first brought to our district 20 years ago when a middle school student's father learned about the program and wanted to bring it to our town because he wanted his kids to be able to participate in it. Now, this was 20 years ago. He's now in his late 60s. His kids are fully grown, but guess what? He's still incredibly involved every single year in the Math Counts chapter competition that we have. He's one of the driving forces behind it. And he doesn't even have kids in middle school anymore. That's how big of an impact the program had on him.
Thank you for sharing that. That is amazing. And I will tell you that it's almost common. And it's because of just the power of the program. And once you're at one of these competitions and you just see how much the kids appreciate this opportunity, to be celebrated in this way, it's an amazing, amazing day. It takes a lot of work. And I would really ask people to consider volunteering at your local competition because it is a ton of work for these coordinators. This year, we had a handful of folks who had reached 40 years of volunteering.
Wow.
And yes. And like I say, many of them are members of NSPE, but we also have people from colleges who volunteer. And as you said, a lot of times it's parents of former participants because they just saw what it did for their own kids. So I just couldn't be more proud to be part of the organization. And it really is impacting kids' lives.
I also have to assume at this point, having been around as long as you have, you must have former alumni who have kids of their own in middle school by now who are second generation mathletes.
We do. I actually know some of them personally. People are always so proud to get their kids involved in the program and to see them flourish. And it's a great experience for a parent and a kid to have. And all these parents are now coaching and volunteering, and quite a few of our alumni go into teaching. And so that's how they're coaches. It's not even just that they're the parent. They were inspired to go into teaching, and now they're doing their own math counts clubs and teams. So yeah, it's kind of cool that our alumni are finally getting to that age.
That's awesome. And my kids are grown and are out of high school and both are in college at this point. But Pete still has a son who's going into third grade this year. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if in a few more years, we find that there's a new math club volunteer in Pete Littig.
That would be awesome. 3 more years, you can get them there.
Yeah, it's not too soon to start training. So I've got a couple of quiz problems that I'm going to bust out tonight at dinner. And we'll see how it goes.
Jared, where do we start?
Let's start with Math in the World for 400.
Here's the clue.
We have free resources online. So we do post all of the previous year's competitions, like the local and the state competition from 2024 is up online. And so if someone wants to go see what those are about and the level of difficulty there, you can see that. And then our practice book, we call it a school handbook. is available too if people want to get one of those. So yeah, we've got problems up there. You can kind of give it a shot and see how it goes.
Kristen, you mentioned the ways in which Math Counts has inspired the participants and the people who are involved. On my part, I have to say it has inspired me, and my hope is that it inspires all of our listeners. So thank you so much for coming, telling us about the work that you've been up to, inspiring us with your stories and with the role that Math Counts is playing really all across the nation. I am just very pleased to know all of the things that your organization does.
And allow me to heartily second that, Kristen. Thank you so much, both for the interview today and for all the work that you and your team do year after year to make math more engaging and more accessible to more middle schoolers. It's fun, it's inspiring, and it's important work that I'm glad you're doing.
Thank you. And like you say, I think our missions are very close to each other. So having listened to your podcast too, I know that we're all working toward the same goal of just getting math to be something that we're celebrating and we're excited about. And the next generation just sees it as a thrilling experience. It should be fun. It should be fun. It should be celebrated. And so thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I was just telling Pete a little while ago that the reason I wanted to have you on the show was I was thinking this is such a great program. If we can even get just one listener out there to reach out and bring this program to one more school district, I'm hoping it's many more than one, but if even one person out there reaches out and brings this program to their school, what a successful turnout.
Sincerely. And then you never know what the kids at that school, how it's going to impact them and how they will spread the word. And, what we were talking about earlier, so many of our alumni, they do come back and they coach or they go into teaching. So yes, I would encourage your listeners to do the same. If this has kind of sparked an interest, don't just kind of set it aside and think you'll do it later. Just realize what an impact you can have on the kids who you make this opportunity available for.
Well, once again, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you talking about Math Counts, and we look forward to many more years of Math Counts in the future.
Hey, you bet. It was definitely all my pleasure. And Pete, we'll see you in Washington in 3 years at that local competition.
You can count on it.
Ah, that's a good ending, Pete. You can count on it.